I'm finished. I am done manually hunting creepers. This is the last one I get, and it didn't even give me any gunpowder. How dare you, sir? I'm gonna build my creeper farm out here over the ocean, but first, I've been pranked. Again, Prowl cannot keep himself away from my stuff. He littered my space with crafting tables, and what's worse, he left me 32 diamonds that he says will make my farms faster, but they've been misnamed. Part of me wants to believe that Prowl just loves hanging around my base, so he finds excuses to come over here, but you'd also think he'd bring me some useful gifts sometimes instead of hot garbage. It'd honestly be better if these diamonds were renamed to sub to BluJay, which you should totally do, by the way. Much better. Oh yeah, and speaking of hot garbage, this is my new bow. I'm being forced to use this against my will, and I've got to use it for the next 2 weeks. Now, considering that my videos have been much farther spread apart lately, I may fudge those numbers just a little bit in your favor so you can see me suffer some more. But thank you to everyone who donated subscriptions or supers on the stream the other night. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. And this is all your fault. And I've already forgotten arrows. I have 3. This is gonna be miserable. Anyway, Prowl and I started a new project, and we didn't get much farther after the stream was over, so if you saw that, you've seen pretty much everything there is here. This is the beginnings of a skills course that we are building as a tribute to our members. Here's everything you need to know. This skills course is where I'm going to be putting my members' armor stands. The skills course will be built by me and Prowl, but the ideas for the challenges can come from you. This will be primarily a live stream only project, but I'll come back to it from time to time in videos to show what we've done. And the best part about this is that on live streams where we complete building another challenge, one lucky member, could be you, will be invited to join from my community and one from Prowl's community, and they will race each other to complete these challenges, so don't let me down. Prowl can't win. So, if you want an armor stand in the world, or you want to make your mark on this world by having a chance to run the skills course, make sure to check out the YouTube memberships. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So enough stalling, on to today's project. Let's get over here and start building this creeper farm. My base is just over the mountain peak, right off in the distance. You can just barely see that mountain. And then Prowl's base is over here. Rather than putting a massive eyesore next to either one of our bases, I thought we could put it out here in the ocean. And I think Prowl might put some stuff out here as well. There is a guardian temple there, so we might make use of that at some point too. But I want to go out here into the ocean and make sure that I'm a good distance away from land. And this will be a good time to note that I am playing on simulation distance 12 on this world. If you don't know what that is, you're probably on default, which is simulation distance 4, and I'll explain the difference here shortly. I think this is probably a good spot to start. I'm gonna go down here, and I'm gonna get this scaffolding up to surface level, which is Y level 63. Hey, it worked! It's still hot garbage. And now I only have 2 arrows. Anyway, if you're playing on Simulation Distance 4, which is the default for every Bedrock Edition world, you only need to pillar up a minimum of 44 blocks. That is the farthest distance away that mobs can spawn, but if you're on Simulation 6 or higher, you gotta go quite a bit farther, out to 128 blocks. The farm that I'm building today is specifically designed for Simulation 6 or higher. However, I have made considerations for Simulation Distance 4 that I will show you in a later segment of this video. Y level 191 is exactly 128 blocks above the water surface, so at this distance we should be more than good to prevent mobs from spawning anywhere on the ground. But I like to keep things at even round numbers because it's easier to count, so I'm going to go on up to 200, and that should give us more than enough room to build this farm because we can build up to Y level 320, and I'm definitely not going to make use of that space. I've also brought an armor stand with me and a white banner. I have a resource pack installed right now called the Markers Pack by Foxy No Tail, and this is going to show me a couple of things that are important. This one right here being the chunk border, and this honestly looks pretty perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I built it exactly where we needed to be. This is why you should subscribe to BluJay. BluJay just knows how to play this game. Okay, I also know how to fall. So right here, I'm gonna place a block there. I'm gonna break that one and say goodbye to the... Goodbye, armor stand. We'll go get that in a minute. I need to place another one right here, and this is actually the center point of two separate chunks. I need my farms to be chunk aligned in order for them to both operate independently from each other, and so that I can keep track of how far these farms are supposed to be away from each other, I'm going to build out some chunk barriers that go 2 chunks that direction. Actually, now that I think about it, just from a visual standpoint, I want to be able to see both farms side by side as I'm flying over here from my base. If I choose to do that, I might put a nether portal up here as well. But that means I need to shift this AFK platform over to the middle of that chunk border, which is not a big deal. That's easy to do. There we go. I got the platform all shifted into the right spot, and now I'm going to reposition this armor stand a few times so that those chunk borders go away. Now we can see everything a lot more clearly. Hold on a second. I've made a mistake. But BluJay, that never happens. You never make mistakes. Everything always turns out perfectly. I just need to put... Oh my goodness, I'm so good at falling. There we go. I just need to put one more row of glass right here just to differentiate these chunks. All of this is going to go away at some point after the farm is built, but it's here to mark out the space so I can see where everything is. Now, if I stand over in this corner of the farm, or this edge of the farm, I'm gonna build a creeper farm over here, and this is the very next chunk over, starting with this block, and this farm will be separated from the farm over there by 4 chunks. This will give us what is called a split density farm. And in simple terms, when I stand here on this AFK platform, the mobs that spawn over there do not take into consideration the mobs that spawn over there when it comes to mob caps. So essentially, it is not quite but nearly doubling the rates that we would get out of one of these farms. So how do we get creepers to start spawning up here? I am going to start building some creeper spawning platforms, and I'm going to align myself with the center of the chunk right over there that's marked out, and then I'm going to put one block right here that's going to get broken here in a second, and then I'm going to put another one right here and one right here. So these 2 blocks are in alignment with our center point, and then I'm just going to go 2 more blocks in each direction so that I've got a 6 wide row of blocks. They must be solid blocks because creepers and other mobs can't spawn on things like glass that are transparent. Then I'm going to go 5 more blocks this direction so that now it is 6 blocks by 6 blocks, and then I'll just fill in this entire space. From here, I'm going to put 2 blocks right here, and then 2 blocks right here, and then 2 blocks right here, and 2 blocks right here. And what this is going to do is limit this so that spiders cannot spawn here. Right now, as things are, creepers, witches, zombies, skeletons, all of those things can spawn. But I only want creepers, so I'm going to put a roof over this that is also going to double as the next layer of spawning platforms. And then directly underneath this ceiling, on every single block, I'm going to put a button. Be absolutely certain that you've put one on every single block, because if you miss even one, that opens up a potential spawning spot for another mob that's not a creeper, and so you're going to get some other drops in your farm and slow down your gunpowder rates. The reason this works is because these buttons technically block part of a hitbox that is absolutely necessary for mobs like skeletons and zombies to spawn. They need 2 full blocks of space. Creepers do not. So we've successfully blocked spider spawns and successfully blocked everything else except for creepers. And this is actually a pretty fantastic design. I wish I could say I came up with it myself. I am contractually obligated to read this next portion of the script. Prowl8413 is a bona fide genius and my best friend. All right, Prowl, send me the check, buddy. This is actually Prowl's design for a creeper spawning platform, and I haven't seen anybody else use it yet. Maybe you have, but I have thought this through, and I don't see a better way to do this. This gives us the most efficiency, the most spawning spaces, and I just don't think there's a better way. If you can think of one, please let me know in the comments. But this is it. This is the creeper farm. That's all you gotta do. except for it's not. I'm gonna separate this by 1 block, and I'm gonna repeat that exact same pattern again, so we have more 6x6 platforms. And for this farm in particular, this is going to be a 3x3 grid of 6x6 platforms. This is why it's incredibly important for you to have a stash of blocks that you just have a mass quantity of. Unfortunately, I really wanted to build this out of bamboo and quartz to match the theme of my builds over there. However, I don't have the quantity necessary to do this, and I have tried to create creeper farms in the past out of blocks that are hard to get. Go back and watch season 1 of the Bedrock Guide if you want to see that one. But my goodness, that took forever. But because this is going to be far away from the base, and it's going to be barely visible on the skyline, I'm not too concerned about how it looks. Maybe one day if we just have like 200 stacks of quartz laying around, we can redo this whole thing. But you know what? I'm more concerned about the gunpowder. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spawning platforms, and you might notice there's no roof up there. I'm gonna address that here shortly, but I wanted to point out specifically 1, 2, 3 platform placeholders below our initial starting platform. And you're probably thinking, BluJay, I thought you had to be 128 blocks above the ground for this farm to work. Well, that is true. I have to be 128 blocks above the ground, but the spawning platforms do not. As long as these spawning platforms are within the radius of where I'm standing, and they meet all of the spawning parameters, that should be totally fine. So in total, this farm is going to have 7 layers with 9 platforms each. It's kind of hard to see through the clouds, but you can see I've got 7 layers of 9 6x6 platforms, which gives me a grand total of 2,016 spawnable spaces where creepers can spawn in this farm. Once they fall off of these platforms, they're gonna need somewhere to go, which I have marked out with this glass right here. There is a 3-block gap between standing on here and the ceiling of the lowest spawn platform, and I'm going to fill in this entire space, including 1 block farther out than the edge of this platform. And if you're curious about the math for this, it is a 22 by 22 platform that I'm going to completely fill in. And after I've got that 22 by 22 platform built, I'm going to extend it out by 1 block on every side. And I know I just built the floor out of glass, but 3 of the walls are going to be solid blocks, and 1 of the walls is going to be tinted glass to make sure everything is nice and dark so that mobs will continue to spawn during the day, and so that I can see everything from the AFK platform. I'm gonna pause on the exterior wall before I finish building it to the top to take care of this room. And what I need to do in here is relatively simple. I just need to place 3 blocks in the corner of every corner, and then I need to locate the center of the farm, which should be right here, and take 2 blocks in rows like this all the way down, and then I'll do the same thing going this direction. And last but not least, I need to do the same thing I did in these corners and do them in the corners of these cross sections. 3 blocks directly in the corner of every corner. And before I start the tedious process of placing water in here, I want to locate 4 specific sections in this farm, starting with the outer platform on one of the sides. And I'm gonna go to this corner right here directly in the middle and then look down. I'm gonna chop out this block and this block and this block and this block to give me a 2x2 hole where the creepers will eventually get flushed and fall down into a trident killer. I'm gonna do that 3 more times, and then over each of these holes I need to put some fence gates to trap the water and keep it from flowing down. Just make sure to open those fence gates so the creepers will flow right on through. And after all of the fence gates are in place, I can start placing down water, but there's a couple of things you want to keep in mind. And I'm going to start right here with an infinite water source by placing 1 water source here, skipping a block, and putting another water source here. Then I can grab water from the middle, and that will continue to replenish itself. But before we we go any farther, the next thing I want to do is locate the center of this little platform right here and place one water source here, one water source here, one water source here, and one water source here, and that should take care of flushing everything away from the middle, and then I can start just filling in all of the gaps. What I want to be careful not to do is to create static locations in this farm, and one way to avoid that is by skipping this block right here, and this block right here, and this block right here, and this block right here. I will just place one water source here, and that should take care of flushing everything toward the middle. And then again, skip this one and continue to go, make an infinite water source, and then just start filling in as we go. Then I can place water up on top of this lane one by one until we get to here, and then I'm gonna stop. And then I can shift over to this lane and do the exact same thing. One water source per block until I get to this one right here that's right next to this water. That's the last one. And now anywhere in this side of the farm that a creeper lands, it's going to get flushed into this 2x2 hole and dropped into a trident killer. And now I just need to do that 3 more times. I would like you to take note of the coordinates in the top left hand of the screen. Y level 187 in particular, that middle number, that is the location of this flushing floor vertically in the air. And this platform that I've pre-built down here is where the creepers are going to land at exactly 21 blocks below. There's a couple reasons for this. The first one I want to show you with this armor stand. I mentioned earlier that this farm is going to be built for specifically Sim 12 because I'm going to have another one over there, but this farm as it is will work on simulation distance 4. As you can see, this green circle or sphere indicates where mobs cannot spawn because they're too close to the player, and then this red outer sphere indicates where mobs can spawn, and outside of that sphere they will immediately despawn based on a sim distance 4. So if you're not going to build the double farm, you can stop with this farm once we're done. You can even build it out a little bit farther on the edges, which I believe is what Prowl has done with his farm. Also, he used trapdoors up there. I used buttons. So there's a few small differences here and there. If I am standing at this spot right here, you can see that that green sphere reaches just below that first spawn layer. And the outer edge of this red sphere might overlap the corners of this top layer. So this is pretty much the maximum height that you're going to be able to build this farm on sim distance 4. But again, you can go out a little bit wider on some of the middle layers. The other reason that I've built this platform 21 blocks below the drop chutes is so that the creepers will take enough fall damage when they hit the ground that the tridents should be able to take them out in one hit, which is also going to increase your rates. So I'm going to go down here and make sure I'm lined up with one of the corners of the drop chute, and then I'm going to look this direction onto this block. And then I'm going to place one piston here. I'm going to rotate and put a piston here, rotate and put a piston here, and last but not least, a piston here. Then I'm going to break these 4 blocks in the middle, and I'm going to replace them with mud. This will allow the items to get pulled through into a hopper below and on into storage. Then I'm going to break this block right here and this block directly below the piston and put one solid block here. And then I'm going to have one observer facing away from that block we just placed so that the face is here and the arrow is pointed in that direction. This observer is going to be looking for a change of state. On this block right here that I have placed from below, I'm going to put a powered rail, and as soon as I do that, this observer is going to detect a change, which is going to fire off that piston. That's pretty cool, but I need that to go in a continuous loop from piston to piston to piston and back again. So I'm going to do the same thing. Solid block under every piston, an observer facing away from that solid block, and then a powered rail, and that's pretty much it. I'm ready to place the last rail, and once I do, this thing is going to go and go and go and go and pretty much never stop. Don't you just love redstone? It's so cool. There is a way to turn this off, and that is by putting a lever on one of the pistons or on a block next to a piston that will power it. So I'm actually just going to cover this with blocks, but I'm going to leave this one open right here and probably put like a trapdoor or maybe 2 trapdoors so I've got easy access to throw tridents if they ever fall through or despawn, or if we ever want to add more. But for now, I'm just going to take a lever and put it right here and power that piston so this thing shuts off. Then all I need to do is make sure I've built it in the right place. Oh my goodness.
Whoopsie.
I've built it in the wrong spot. I gotta shift it over 1 block. BluJay. BluJay, you're such a bird brain. I can see it already in the comment section. You're typing it right now. I see you. Hey, I fixed it. It's in the right spot now. All right, so what I need to do from here is build up a drop chute that meets up with the floor up there, obviously so nothing can escape. And I'm gonna follow suit with what I'm gonna do on the AFK side. I'm gonna put some tinted glass here just so I can see the creepers falling from way over there. And just as you would with any other farm like this, make sure to cover the corners. There's a lot of stuff going on down there with pistons pushing mobs around, and they could very easily push a creeper out the edge, and then they're just kind of sitting here. Maybe they'll despawn at some point, but you're just wasting efficiency on your farm. So to keep all of your mobs inside the Trident Killer, cover the corners. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 Trident Killers, and 4 Tridents loaded up. I have to turn all of these on manually every time I want to run the farm. I'm gonna see what kind of time I have left in this video, because I still have to build a whole second farm, and we're not quite done with this one yet. But ideally, you'd put all of these onto one switch at the AFK platform, and that is my eventual goal. I'm just not sure if I'm gonna get to that goal today or not. But before I can even worry about that, I need to get this farm running, and there's only 2 basic steps left. First, creepers can spawn on these platforms now when it's dark. However, unless they just happen to accidentally fall off, they're not gonna pathfind off of these platforms. That's what these coral fans are for. I need to put coral fans on the edge of every single platform in every single space, except for spaces where they actually meet. I only need coral fans on one of these, obviously because I can't put coral fans here as well, but they will pathfind off of this to try to walk on top of that coral fan and then drop straight through. It's a beauty. The outer walls are done, and there's only one thing left to do before this thing is fully operational, and that is up here on the roof. I wanted to make sure to cover this specifically because there are some important things to note about the roof. The outer edge I'm going to keep as solid blocks, and that's totally fine, but everything else needs to be tinted glass. This will darken the entire area so that mobs will spawn during the day and at night, and this also tricks the game into giving us extra spawns because this top layer will be considered a surface spawn, and then every other layer below it will be considered a cave spawn, and cave spawns and surface spawns actually use 2 separate mob caps. So not only are we going to get split density between the 2 farms, we're also going to get both cave and surface spawns with this design. Don't forget though, after you get this roof in place, you still have to put buttons underneath it like we did down below to keep all the other things from spawning. No zombies, no skeletons, only creepers. We're sure to get creepers spawning in there shortly, but hey, also, forgot to mention, make sure you put buttons around these solid blocks as well. If you get stuff spawning up here, it's gonna kill your rates. So, if you're on simulation distance 4, you should be standing down there in the middle of the platform, because this isn't gonna work for you. But because I'm on simulation distance 12, I'm gonna stand here as if I've already got the other farm in place on the other side, and I'm just gonna see how much this puts out in a couple of minutes. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. I'm gonna go down here into my storage system and see what we've got. All right, 12 in that one, 14 in that one, 11 in that one, and 17 in that one. Oh yes, one trick that I forgot that will even increase the rates even more. You need to be holding a looting 3 sword because these tridents inside of here will pick up on that enchantment by proximity. I don't know why it works that way. I'm pretty sure it's a bug, but please Mojang never fix it. It's amazing. Feature, not a bug. So I'm gonna stand here for a couple of more minutes with looting 3 and see how much more we get. Not much. Oh, that one's better. That one's better. Ooh, that one's even better. Okay, we're in business. I've got a couple of stacks at least of gunpowder in about 5 minutes, and half of that time was without looting 3. So far so good. We can't celebrate too early because this is only half the battle. It's been a process, but I expect the second farm to go up even quicker. And let me tell you, that second farm is gonna go up so fast that it's already done. I've even sat here for about 10 minutes to let both farms run with my looting 3 sword in hand, and I wanna go check out the results to see how much gunpowder we would get in an hour if I were to sit here that entire time. All right, so far so good. Awesome, even better, fantastic. We're pretty consistent across the board on one side of the farm. What does the other side have in store for us? Ooh, that's the first one under a stack. Interesting. Oh my, that one really did not do well. Okay, all right, give me a second to add all of this up. So I sat at this farm for 10 minutes and I got 502 pieces of gunpowder. If I were to get those same rates for the entire hour, which in all of my testing is pretty consistent, that gives me 3,012 pieces of gunpowder per hour. This thing cooks. I do want to make note of one issue that I've seen with this farm, and I didn't see it in the 10 minutes that I tested here, but I will be honest with you, I did some pretty extensive testing after I built this in the world, and you might notice there are some other things inside of this chest down here. Not so much in these. I've actually thrown a lot of junk away. This is several hours worth of testing. Got a little bit of rotten flesh, got some bones, some arrows. I'm honestly not sure what the deal is. Either, one, there's a bug in the game, and sometimes other mobs slip through, which is the more likely, if I'm guessing correctly, or I'm a big bird brain and I missed a button or two inside the farm. I don't think that's the case because I went through pretty meticulously and checked every single space multiple times, so I don't think I'm missing any buttons. In theory, this should block 100% of all spawns except for creepers. In reality, it's not doing that, and I'm not sure why. If any of you have any insight into this, please let me know. Otherwise, I might need to go through and redo this with trapdoors. That's kind of the reason I didn't do trapdoors, is because buttons are cheaper and it's supposed to accomplish the same result. But I'm honestly not too worried about it because we have so much gunpowder. It's still producing 3,000 gunpowder per hour, even with those random odd drops from time to time. It's not going to be a big deal. So this is my rocket box. I've got a couple of stacks of firework rockets. Let's fill this thing up. I don't know why, but this just feels like I've beat the game now. It's over. And I've been saying repeatedly that I've really wanted these rockets because I love flying, but really, it's mostly so I can just do this.